Thank you very much, Mr. Beksa. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. I am thankful to all of you for joining this webinar, which actually would be an interactive session. Thank you very much. Current situation. Thank you very much. Indian illegally distinguished guests Jammu and Kashmir. Assalamu alaikum. With special focus on post. I am thankful to all of you for joining this situation webinar. As we actually would be an interactive session. Thank you very much. Current situation. Thank you very much. Indian commitments distinguished guests and even Assalamu alaikum. With special focus on post on 5th August all of you 2019 by revoking the special status of IIOJK granted under Article 370 and 35A. However, this does not stop here. India launched an aggressive campaign on number of fronts. To be specific, India introduced new laws, particularly domicile law and land laws, the prime objective of which is to change the demography of the state from Muslim majority to Hindu majority. As has been witnessed, India also intensified its military operations to intimidate Kashmiris, continued the military siege of Kashmir, particularly in the Kashmir Valley. First, after revocation of aforementioned articles, when on the pretext, and then on the pretext of COVID-19. This long military siege has affected Kashmiris in many ways, and particularly inflicted huge economic losses. The purpose was crystal clear: to make Kashmiris bow down and accept the change India has been introducing. In all this, the fascist Indian regime did not allow any dissent voice. The condition of pro-India political parties and their leadership is before us. Even human rights activists and media were not allowed to report the truth. Closure of Amnesty International offices, crackdown on different media houses and journalists, imposition of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or the example is before us. All this shows that India has resorted to aggressive and multi-dimensional mechanization in Kashmir, and it is feared that if the developments continue with the same pace, it would achieve its objective of demographic change with a couple of years now. We are cognizant of the fact that no international condemnation or statements against the mechanization could stop India from continuing to implement its aggressive policies vis-a-vis Kashmir. India does not seem in mood, particularly in near future, to engage in any kind of dialogue for resolution of Kashmir dispute. The world, particularly United Nations and other influential forums, although issued statements and observed Indian wrongdoings, but in practical, nothing changed. Now, since we gather here in this webinar to discuss Indian mechanization in IIOJK and way forward, I would appreciate if we could focus on some basic questions and determine what our role or other activists should be at this particular juncture of time, or what opportunities we have to support Kashmiris in their struggle for freedom or right to self-determination. I just want to pose just a few questions before you so that we can analyze them and we can find some solution. We can discuss them in this interactive session. So question is, how can we resist or help Kashmiri people living inside the occupied Kashmir to resist such aggressive policy initiatives as taken by India. Number two, most of the webinar participants, as I can see, have been working abroad since long. For our understanding here, what is the quantum of understanding of Kashmir dispute in Western countries, particularly Europe? Do they take it another issue of human rights, or have they deep understanding of its political nature? Third one, do you feel that world powers have a realization of urgency to resolve the Kashmir dispute without any future delay? Number four, what specific measures could be taken to pressurize India to accept disputed nature of Jammu and Kashmir and take steps for its settlement? Then if you look current situation, currently people of IIOJK are facing violent brute force, bullets, pellets, power, tear gas, shells, black laws, jails, harassments, torture, brutalities, custodial disappearances, fake encounters, curfews, restrictions, political injustice, lawlessness, and all types of barbarism, what we can say. So what next India and its armed force can do? What will be their next inhuman and military might act against the unarmed people of Kashmir who are struggling for right to self-determination? And finally, how would you describe the current phase of Kashmir movement and at what stage is this Kashmir dispute now? I thank you all. Now I go to Beg Sab again. He would coordinate.
Thank you very much, Ashraf Sahab, for giving comprehensive briefing over it. So I would like to request Barrister Tramboo Sahab, do you think that international community is playing its role regarding Kashmir? If not, why?
Beg Saab, thank you. I think Wani Saab's preliminary remarks were very crucial, and then those need to be responded to. But it would be helpful, as I see myself as the oldest person sitting on the panel here, hear from all the young people first, and perhaps based on my experience, particularly on international scene, I may be able to wrap it together. So preferably, Beg Saab, if you don't have any objection, I would like to hear everybody else first.
Okay.
Okay, that would be more better if it is your suggestion, because you are more experienced and you have been working on Kashmir for long, and you know ins and outs about Kashmir issue.
Beg Saab, I didn't say I'm more experienced. I simply said I believe I am experienced than all other young people who are sitting on the panel. So somebody else may have much more experience than me. I wouldn't claim that I'm the expert on Kashmir affairs or on international relations with regard to Kashmir. But so kind of you. I think you proceed as I requested. Thank you, sir.
Beg Sab, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Hello? Now can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay. Shabbir Ahmad Dar, sir. I'd like to ask you, what is the collective responsibility of Kashmiris living inside Kashmir and outside Kashmir? Because as Ashraf Sahab were saying that how India is abrogating our laws, how India is doing each and everything against Kashmiris and occupied Kashmir. People are being tortured, they are being killed, they are being putting behind bars. So what is the collective role of Kashmiri people, whether they are inside Kashmir or outside Kashmir?
Beg Saab, again, forgive me for my intervention. I need to speak to Shabbir Saab directly. Assalamu alaikum, Shabbir Saab. I have seen you after probably 20 years.
Exactly. We are seeing one another after 20 years.
I am very delighted to see you, sir. All my regards and respect for you and for your colleagues. I remember those days which I spent with you here in London and then in Den Haag.
Thank you, sir. I do remember also. I do remember, and I cherish those days.
Thank you, sir. Please carry on, sir. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To all our sons of soil who are displaced but are working tirelessly. Who are also our sons, proud sons, who are carrying all the events happening here in the occupied territory and informing the world about all these indignities of life which we are going through. It's an old saying that the nature of resistance is decided by the oppressor, not by the oppressed people. But the result of the resistance is decided by the oppressor, and the oppressor cannot intervene in it. As far as the question goes, how the people in this part of Kashmir can deal with the India we are dealing for the last 7 decades, we have been dealing them, particularly for last 3 decades. There has been an uprising which have caught the attention of the whole world. And because of that, you are displaced too. The consequences here which we are facing because of the legal demand which we have put forward to Indian occupiers and to the international conscience is the brutalities one can experience. Is the days of apartheid the African people faced, is nowadays the same situation as is going in Gaza, as is going in Syria. We are no different than them. We are just trying to save our political identity. We are trying to get only that which have been promised to us by the United Nations, which has been promised to us by the first Prime Minister of India. And we are not asking for the stars. Now what India is doing it, all the horrible laws, all the black laws, which you can mention, which are prevalent in this world, they are in place as far as Kashmir goes. The voice of dissent is absolutely non-existent. You cannot have any dissent here. Even if India goes, there is absolutely no voice of dissent at this point of time. So Kashmir is altogether different. How can we have? India thinks that they have purchased us again like the Maharaja, so they can deal with us what that Maharaja was doing to the people some 100 years back. But we are fighting it politically, fighting it at a diplomatic level. As far as Mr. Tramboo goes, he's the real senior diplomat as far as we know him here, and he knows Kashmir full well, as you have put yourself in the opening remarks. I do subscribe to those views. We have been working for some time together. The whole of Kashmir is non-resident Kashmiris. They are working tirelessly, no doubt about that. And after the mention of 5th August 2019, the difficult situation has arisen for Kashmiris. It has added to the woes. We were already facing the tough situations. It has added more into it, because this time what India is trying to do is changing the demography, as everybody understands it. And not only changing the demography, it is literally snatching our land. It is literally stretching our right to vote. It is literally doing everything from Delhi is being done to do their business in Kashmir. And we are being caged, what we call it caged. We are being caged like anything. But the caged birds are still making all efforts to get ourselves free. And as far as Kashmiris go, they are politically fighting Kashmiris with full conviction, with full resilience. And our friends, our brothers all over the world, they are doing a great job, particularly after 5th of August, they are doing a great job. We may be at the receiving end of the situation at this point of time, but that our sons, our brothers, and our sisters, our daughters at the global front, they have made world to move. And every capital of the world, they have spoken about Kashmir. They have spoken about the urgency to resolve the dispute on Jammu and Kashmir. They have stood with the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And as far as the human rights goes, it's a spurious coin in circulation as far as IIOJK is concerned. But our friends, and particularly Mr. Tramboo, who has been working on this front, they have made the world to move, get up to the situation and react, and made many references against India, against its dealing of the human rights as far as Kashmir goes. So as at this point of time, we are bolstered, our morale is very high, our all the ambassadors, they are working very hard and they are working effectively. And our great lawyer, Pakistan, its establishment, particularly its prime minister, they are doing a great job. They are making world understand the urgency and the need to resolve the dispute on Jammu and Kashmir. This resistance will continue till it reaches to its logical conclusion, and nobody on earth can stop this, because what is destined is destined, and we are coming up with all those decent methods to change the destiny at this point of time for us. And for that, we are very thankful to all the sons, proud sons, all the Kashmiris, non-resident Kashmiris who are working for this cause. I think I have made up my point. You are not audible, sir.
You are again muted, Beg Saab, you are muted.
We are not listening.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Now you can. Thank you very much, Dar Saab. Ms. Shahista, you have been living in Pakistan and you have been working over here for the cause of Kashmir, for Kashmiri people. You have been lobbying over here, and I used to see you here on roads of Pakistan, in Islamabad, whatever you have been doing here. Now you are living in UK and you are doing same thing over here, and you are taking forward this Kashmir cause. What do you think? Do you feel that world powers have realization of the urgency to resolve the Kashmir dispute without any further delay? What do you think?
Thank you very much, Beg Saab. I'd like to pay my regards to Tramboo Saab. I can see him in the panel. And I can surely say he is the most expert and experienced person. And I can, if anyone can give the certificate, I will feel proud to give this certificate to Tramboo Saab that he is the most experienced person. It was a pleasure hearing Dar Sahab from Kashmir right now, and the positivity and the way he spoke gives us courage, the people who are living in diaspora, that this is the way people in resistance, they speak. So as far as your question is concerned, Beg Saab, first of all, I'd like to say that I don't see the urgency even in people of Kashmir right now. People in diaspora. People are saying that we saw the urgency in government, and we saw the urgency when different world leaders or anyone talk about Kashmir, but I don't see the urgency even in our own selves. we saw that after 5th of August, a storm came in and everybody became an expert, an overnight expert on Kashmir. And now suddenly everyone is gone. And who is left? Tramboo Saab is here, you are here, and I am here. So this is the thing that when we talk about UN, when we talk about OIC, when we talk about urgency of what the world community or what the world leaders have done for us, we need to first sit on a balcony and see what we have done, what kind of urgency we have shown to this cause, what kind of strategy and what kind of moves we took after 5th of August. Leave aside what we did in early 80s or 90s or in 2000 or in 2008 or in 2010. We need to see what we have done after 5th of August, what difference we made after 5th of August, what moves were there, what strategy we made, who sat together to decide, okay, now when all this has happened, what to do next? Because we are saying that there's demographic change is going to happen. We are saying that Kashmir identity, our identity is at the edge of losing. We are saying that genocide is going to happen. Genocide alert is already being issued for Kashmir. All these things are happening, but where are we? Where are we, the Kashmiris? Where are we, the lobbyists? Where are we, the human rights activists on Kashmir? So before we blame or we pinpoint what others have done, they have done whatever they could. UN have done more than enough by publishing reports on Kashmir. Thanks to Tramboo Saab and his team and the tireless efforts they have done, we have now this proof of report that we can show to the world that whatever we were saying all these years, that enforced disappearances are there, mass graves are there, rape as a weapon of war is there, pellets are there, bullets are there. We have now a written proof with us. That is what world needs, a document. So we have document in form of what UN reports have been given. OIC, they have always been giving the statements and we receive those statements. They are doing their job. Media is now working more in Kashmir, and we can see the first page editorials and first page headlines on New York Times, Guardian, Al Jazeera and whatnot. But the question lies, what have we as Kashmiri done? And I know that we have done many webinars and we have been talking about this, but in terms of a strategy, if we are talking about what Indian strategy and scheme of process have been, and it's 5th of August was not a random act India took. It was not an overnight thing that they scrapped or they took away the so-called identity of Kashmir by scrapping 370 and 35A. That was not an overnight effect. That was a systematic process that was going on. And we need to understand that when this happened, it was not that opposition in India was blaming BJP for doing it. They were taking the credit for it. Congress was taking a credit and they were saying that BJP was unable to do it because we had diluted the effect of 370 and 35A. So we can't say that BJP is all evil and Congress is what we need right now. We need to understand that whosoever is in the government or in the opposition or even those friends we have in India, when it comes to the right of self-determination of Kashmir, they have only one and single line, that is Kashmir is the integral part of India. So we need to understand these things as we are talking about the mechanism and the scheme of processes. We need to understand what our strategy has been, because what I have seen so far, and I witnessed to this, that Tramboo Saab was the one here who wanted to unite Kashmiris, who wanted to make one platform for Kashmiris where we can think as a think tank and where we can sit together and where we can talk about next future strategies and what we have done in past and how we can move forward. But again, as I can see 9 people sitting here, that was the result of that as well. And there, Tramboo Saab and we were left. So we need to understand that as we are here today and we'll continue to discuss and debate these things, we need to see our roles, what we are doing, and how we can improve that and how we can move forward with that. So without blaming and pinpointing on others, let's talk about what our roles have been and can be.
Yes, that is great. Without pinpointing others, we need to see what we people are doing and what we need to do, and what would be the way forward. Omar Adil Dar Saab, you are Dr. Asif. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, sir. Currently, people of Kashmir living in Indian occupied Kashmir, what kind of harassments, barbarism, and vicious attitude from India they are facing, and what do you think are the expectations of Kashmiri people on a world community, and do you think that these expectations are right? And as Shahista was saying, that we need to focus ourselves rather to think about others, what others are doing. What do you think that what Kashmiri people should we move forward ourselves, or we should rely on?
I'm missing your audio.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Now, my second part was that as Shahista Safi was saying, that we should focus on this Kashmir situation ourselves, and we need not to pinpoint others, what others are doing for us. We need to be focused ourselves. What do you think that Kashmiri people should do? Should they move forward this strategy ourselves, or we should pinpoint others, or and what others can do for us? Do you think that international community can play any role for us, what we have been expecting for decades?
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for inviting me. I'm a very practical man. I don't make plans. I feel the ground, then I speak what the ground speaks. This is how I work. I'll come to the sister Shahista later, but let's be clear what our agendas are. What is the India's plan? What should be our response? And how we are going to overcome it. Look, we cannot live in a fool's paradise anymore, thinking that India is going slow. 70 years, Kashmir is suffering. 100,000 deaths, 12,000 rapes, and all of them have been done just with three motives. The simple motives are the three simple basic ideas which India is working on. Number one, it wants to do the demographic change. Kashmir seems to be the only territory occupied by India which is Muslim dominant. This cannot be accepted. This has never gone well, neither with Congress, nor with BJP, nor as an Indian community as a whole. Kashmiris sometimes on and off have been hoping that things might go well, but it's not actually the idea. The India with a softer Hindutva with Congress or with the harder Hindutva with BJP, the plan is clear. Change the demography of Kashmir. We cannot we cannot sleep over it time and again. The second important fundamental, which India has been working very clearly over the last 70 years and very nakedly in the last 1 year, was to disenfranchise the Kashmiri Muslims of their rights and the economic stability they have. 9,800 crores of rupees was just lost in last 1 year. That's not only shameful for a occupational force which is working in India, but it is detrimental to the core. It is detrimental to the core of the small population like Kashmir. And number third important thing, let's understand, because I'm a doctor, I always put my profession and try to understand the work. Let's diagnose what is wrong on ground. The problem is that you are hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you. If other people can mute, then we can hear you clearly.
Okay. So the plan is simple. Kashmir is sitting on an earthquake, a volcano, ready to erupt anytime. The genocide is knocking at our doors. We cannot lie to ourselves anymore. I mean, all those people who are thinking this is not going to happen have forgotten 1947. And India, don't think the media will give you a coverage. Don't think that the international media is looking and things will change. Nothing changed 5th August. We are still more than a year has passed. 2G is still there. They are not converted it to 4G, not to talk about the atrocities and other stuff. World might have done something, but it doesn't count on ground. I mean, our 1% population has been wiped out from the face of the planet in last 30 years. 100,000 deaths. It's not a joke. And what I don't blame anybody, but there are a lot of factors which work on this. So Kashmir is again sitting on a genocide. What India is waiting, that they want to correct their relationships worldwide, and then they will run the race. My point is, we are not going to sleep over it. This is recognition of the problems. These are the India's plans. But my point is, we are not going to sleep over it. Let's plan it out. What should be our targets to work to counter it, to resistance, to put up a resistance. For example, I always define two categories of Kashmiri Muslims. The one is the people living inside the Kashmir. The other is the Kashmiri diaspora. Remember that the whole Kashmir community is not a big population, so we need to know our limitations all the time. So we cannot run the race on our own. We need to focus on our friends. We need to know who are the friends. We need to know who are the enemies. Let's be very clear. I'm very worried about these confusing situations and other stuff. Let's talk about the people in Kashmir, what they can do. The biggest thing they can do, they should not normalize the situation. For example, everything is not normal post 5th August, and it never was pre 5th August, but we will not allow them to settle on it. Second important thing, you look at these elections, we need to run a proper, why are the elections being run? The point is to create a narrative that everything is normal, everything is coming back. Another important issue is that we don't need to accept their DDC educational, these DDC exercises. Another important issue is we don't need to accept tolerate their, sorry, I have a bit of disturbance, sorry. Can I mute it for a minute?
Yes, we can, please.
Beg Sahab, I think you continue with another speaker. That would be preferable.
Okay, Tramboo Sahab, I think Dar Sahab has got some, he will be back, inshallah, we will be listening from him. Of course, if you look at this...
can I come back?
Oh, yes, please.
Sorry,
yes,
I am extremely sorry. If you look at the other exercises which the government has been doing on ground, it's like sports activities being run by the agencies. I think we need to boycott it. Kashmiris on ground have only two choices. They need to decide either they stand with the freedom or they are against it. There is no third choice, that we cannot have a mutual agreement with the government of India. We have to be very clear. We cannot live in confusion for another 30 years. And after 30 years, we'll find there are 90% Hindus and 10% Muslims. The rest have been either leaving the place or have been eliminated. What's the job of the other people who are well off? I think we need to give them a social help, like Baitul Mals. They need to be created everywhere, because the plan of India is to make us dependent on them, and so we will be left penniless and begging. So this has to be countered on ground as well as from the diaspora. Coming to the diaspora, I really appreciate the work done by Mr. Tramboo, Mr. Shawl. They have been tremendously working and looking. This is what exactly I am telling. Looking at our lobbying, we are a small population, one of the smallest populations on earth. And the diaspora, the lobbying has been still terrific. But what my concern is, the diaspora needs to focus on the help we can provide to the ground. Unless the ground does not breathe, no international activity, no international platform is going to help you. The ground needs to vibrate. The ground needs to breathe. The ground breathes, so the platform can be provided for the international lobbyists to work on it. My concern is we need to, the diaspora, the biggest job for the diaspora is to get connected back to the ground, to put the whole process in synchronization and let the world go ahead. My sister, when I was talking in the beginning, my sister, Shahista, she was talking about what Kashmiris have done. Believe me, I have left Kashmir. Last time I visited Kashmir was 4 years back. When there are more than 1 million forces on your doorsteps, it's very difficult to breathe. It's from the ground. I'm not talking about the diaspora. I'm talking about the ground. 1 million people, 1 million armed boots at your doorsteps. It is, I mean, you cannot breathe. Every family has a policeman outside as an armed man with a clear objective to kill you, to harass you, to molest your woman. They are on your doorsteps. I mean, it needs a lot of courage to stand against it. And that is where the role of the diaspora comes, to lobby, to know the friends, to tell the people of Kashmir back down that you are not alone. We are with you, fighting for the cause, and let's go ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing this conferences where we exchange ideas with each other. I have a very clear narrative. I don't know everything. I come here to learn. I come here to share my experience. Without hurting anyone, I'm not pinpointing at anyone. It's the same point. We need to work on it. We need to work with each other and to put the platform right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dar Sahab. Thank you very much. Of course, we are here to share our feelings and share our ideas with each other, so that we may lead towards some coordination, some coordinated efforts that may help us in bringing some what sort of so to help Kashmiris in achieving their right to self-determination.
Asif Sahab, can I just add a clarification here? Just a clarification.
Yes, please. Yes,
when I said we need to see what we Kashmiris have done, because I'm a Kashmiri and everyone here is sitting as a Kashmiri. I was talking about Kashmiris outside Kashmir, because I know I can't demand, or I can't even utter a word what Kashmiris who are inside Kashmir on the ground. I can't say that they are not doing enough. They are doing more than enough. They are giving their lives. They are giving their blood. I can't demand anything from them. What I was saying is what we Kashmiris, and especially urgency after 5th of August, as I mentioned that many so-called experts stormed out after 5th of August. So I was talking about Kashmiris outside Kashmir, because I don't feel that I have this right to demand from people on the ground to do something, because they are already doing enough.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, if you ask me, Kashmiri diaspora particularly, they have worked hard. They have done a lot of work, particularly after, if you ask me, after August 5. But of course, what I want from this particular webinar, I want to because where we need coordination. Coordination is where we lack, because when we do not coordinate our efforts, that makes us a problem. Otherwise, we are working everybody, every Kashmiri diaspora, they are working for this purpose. So I would like to Eman Haider, if she can add some to this, but particularly if she can tell us about how in the Western world, how is Kashmir taken? For me, being in Islamabad, I think Western country, there is a concept as it is like a human rights issue. They don't perhaps want to indulge in its political dimension. Whenever they take it as a human rights issue, not a political problem of Kashmir and people of Kashmir. Please, Eman Haider.
Thank you so much.
Iman, just 1 minute.
Can you-
Vanessa, please, if we could have a time limitation, because you have still lots of speakers and we have already now gone about
sir.
50 minutes. Please, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, Beksa, please manage it. Time.
So thank you so much. I'm really glad that I'm honored to be a part of this discussion, and thank you so much for the enlightening views. I would firstly like to start off by saying that I personally do not think that the international world is paying Kashmir the attention that it needs, because even if you look at something as simple as freedom of expression or the right to information, these are very important rights in the world, and they've been given by a lot of international conventions, which India is also a part of, and so is Pakistan. So and we have a lot of mechanisms in these conventions through which we can sort of take our issue in the international world, and these conventions can sort of let's say organize and see what a particular state is doing. But in our situation at hand, nothing is being done in terms of India and how it's taking away fundamental rights of Kashmiris. I would also like to sort of give a historical perspective, especially after reading a lot of tweets on Twitter which mentioned how it might be financially beneficial for Kashmiris if Indian people are able to buy land or invest in the land. So we've often seen in history examples of regime taking control of territories, and that way shrinking economies and disrupting growth, the way it's happening with Kashmir. And in 1900s, the increasing American influence in Latin America led to what the sociologist Oscar Lewis would term as a cycle of poverty. And that way, in that particular area, future generations didn't have access to the tools and the resources to live financial, stable, and socially happy lives. So if we look at the illegal Indian occupation of Jammu and Kashmir, we see such long-term impacts. And if the world does not intervene, destability in the region threatens an economic scenario we've already seen in Venezuela. Future generation of Kashmirs will have lost their identity due to the abrogation of Article 370. This will inevitably result in a loss of opportunities for the Kashmiri people and will force many to flee their homeland. If someone thinks that the introduction of Indians in Jammu and Kashmir will boost economic activity due to money flowing in and thereby providing Kashmiris with a better economy, I counter by asking whether American money flowing into Latin America made lives better for the average person. Here, perceptions of people play an important role, as people before me have mentioned. Indians would prefer Indians, and thus it's again a cycle of poverty, which will perpetuate in Kashmir, the way we've seen in other areas such as Venezuela again. It is now imperative that international institutions, global powers, and the general populace, especially the Kashmiri diaspora, that we take up this issue and coordinate in a way where we can advocate our rights in a much better way. Because otherwise, we're condemning an entire generation of young boys and girls to live a life of poverty, and not just the current generation, all the future generations of Kashmiris that are to come.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eman. Thank you for your comments. Of course, we have to look from different dimensions. If we talk about issue of Kashmir, we have to work on different fronts, particularly as earlier Asif Dar Sahab has said quite well about the economic. I have also mentioned in my presentation earlier that India is trying to inflict huge economic losses on people of Kashmir, and that is why it wants to make them bow down before its might and deprive them of all those rights. We have Danish Ali, research scholar from Australia. If Danish, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much. I can.
Please,
I hope
please
I'm audible.
Please, forum is with you. Please say.
Okay. Bismillah. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I would start with a quote of Malcolm X. He said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." So first thing that we talk about the situation of like how we reached here, why we are talking about Kashmir, like after 73 years, what has happened in Kashmir. First thing I would like to quickly, wrap up, that is part of education. We have been, informing people, we have been like, crying day in, day out that, well, please come to, come for our rescue, that we are getting massacred, like there's a genocide maybe take place within the next 3 or 4 years. But the world will not listen to you. This is the reality, because India is a big market, and people realize it. And we are living in a world where people do not care about the political correctness. They talk about their markets as long as their pockets are full, and that's the reality. And we have to speak, the truth. And I'm not like being pessimistic, like we are telling you, look, there are people that who won't listen to us. They will listen to us. But we have to keep in mind that what is happening in the ground. We are facing a shameless fascist regime who are day and night working for the genocide of the 10 million Muslims. And we can't be like mute spectators. We have to speak the sentiment of the people, but simultaneously we have to be realistic. And if we are not realistic, we are only talking about education. Okay, that's okay. You are informing people. But what about the practicality that's missing from the ground? I can't expect more from the people because they're already oppressed. I believe Dr. Asif, you already highlighted it. Miss Shahista, she already did it. And, talking about, like, for example, I completely agree with Miss Eman. She talked about we are hijacked in the name of like development from last 73 years. And I would like to put one thing on record. Don't think that this is the only fascist regime. I would like to reiterate what Dr. Asif said. For example, he said like the soft Hindutva power of Congress. I would like to quote Arundhati Roy. Arundhati Roy, she said what Congress did by day, what BJP did by day, Congress did by night. The only difference is one did it in the shade of darkness, and one is doing it open. And I believe I have more respect for someone who's open, in a sense, because it is better to an open enemy rather than a secret friend who's of no use. And second one we have to talk about, like, for example, the only difference between the Congress and the BJP is Congress, for example, they bragged about it that they did it with they changed Article 370 12 times without making any hue and cry. They were indirectly telling BJP, look, you don't know how to hold world politics. We did better than you. And people didn't come to know about it. Now, this is not a battle of, like 370. Kashmir is not about that. It's about the right to self-determination. The first Prime Minister of India, he took it to the United Nations and promised to the people of, world that we will give you the right to, self-determination. Now, keep in mind, those people who were telling us we'll give you right to self-determination, now a regime comes in and said, you are our part, by hook or crook. We don't agree with you. We will take your land. Now this occupation is changed into annexation. They want our land by hook or crook. They want to do the demographic thing. That's there. Now imagine, look at the Indian scenario. One who promised you from last 73 years, never gave it to you. And now who is openly saying, we will change you. We will so-called integration. We will do some sort of assimilation. And where do I get these things? Why I'm a little bit, getting angry on these things? Because the reason is, if you go to their official website, that is the political wing, their ideology is RSS. Read the books of S.W. Goldwalker, We the Nation, We Our Nation. He also mentions that he's talking about the minorities in India. Forget about Kashmir. He's talking within India, they cannot live as Muslims. They have to assimilate without any rights. Now imagine what they're talking about Kashmir. They want it, and they want the demographic change. Within the next 4 or 5 years, it would be done. Then what we would talk about, like when the majority change into minority, and we don't have to, like, for example, I'll give you the example of, Congress. Like when the first day they landed in, the day they landed, they stopped killing in Kashmir. Number one, the massacre of Jammu, how the Muslim majority in Jammu was, turned into a minority. We have to take lessons from history. And if we do not learn from history, history would be repeated. I have, these are the points. And I will say it's better. We have to speak the language they understand. Okay, it is all right. Thank God we have a strong neighbor. Otherwise our situation would have been worse than Burma and Myanmar. And I say it with full guarantee, being a student of history. So that's what I have to say. And I hope, I didn't offend anyone. And if I was a little bit more aggressive, please forgive me for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Misbah Hussain Rizvi Saab, lecturer in Qatar. So, first of all, I would like to request all the participants to be concise and short because we don't have more time. It will be so late if we will take more time. So, Misbah Hussain Rizvi, lecturer in Qatar, I'd like to request you that you are, while staying abroad, you are Kashmir yourself. How would you describe the current phase of the Kashmir movement? And at what stage is the Kashmir dispute now? And while you are looking from outside into Kashmir, and what do you think that in which direction our movement is moving forward? And whether we are going towards the right direction or we need to achieve something more? Hello?
We can hear you.
Misbah Hussain. Mr. Misbah? Mr. Omar Adil, can you hear me? Omar Adil Dar. Hello? Miss Sobia? She's not here. Mr. Omar Adil, can you hear me?
Mr. Omar Adil, can you hear us, please? Omar Adil? He is online, but I don't think what is the issue with him. Omar Adil, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Omar Adil, did you hear my question?
My dear great friends. My respected person, Mr. Rais Saab, and another Mr. Tramboo Sahab, Mr. Shabbir Ahmad Dar Sahab, and other great personalities. Assalamu alaikum.
Did you hear my question? I'd like to repeat it.
Please give your comments.
Okay, give your comments. I would like to get your comments, please.
Please tell me question if you want.
How would you describe the current phase of the Kashmir movement? And at what stage is the Kashmir dispute right now?
If you agree, sir, I want to talk in Hindi, Urdu.
Okay, आप किसी भी ज़ुबान में बात करो, बेशक कश्मीरी में.
Okay, thanks. जी, जो मौजूदा सूरत हाल है यहाँ की जम्मू कश्मीर की 5 अगस्त 2019 से, जी इसमें आपने जो वेबिनार रखा है कि इसके मुतालिक कुछ खदशात है कि आप बैठ के कोई ऑस्ट्रेलिया से है, कोई यूके से है, कोई दीगर ममालिक से बात करना चाहता है, लेकिन मेरा जो नजरिया है इस पे कि खाली कमिट करने से या बात करने से कोई असर नहीं होगा इस पे. इट इज माई पर्सनल व्यू ऑफ पॉइंट. देखिए प्रैक्टिकल جو آن گراؤنڈ ہے جس کا ابھی ہنٹ ہے یہاں پولیٹیکل جو ہنٹ ہے یہاں پہ پولیٹیکل سپیس کی گئی ہے رائٹ آف سپیچ جو چھین لیا گیا ہے تو اس پہ میرا جو نظریہ ہے کہ اس پہ دنیا کے ملکوں میں جتنے بھی کشمیری بھائی کام کر رہے ہیں ان کو اس کے لیے ایک مؤثر آواز بننے کی کوشش کرنی چاہیے. ہیلو جی آپ سن پا رہے ہیں میری بات؟
Yes, we are hearing you. آپ آگے بڑھیے.
صاحب ونان گژھو تُہۍ چھِو بالکل بوزان چھِ.
ہاں جی جو یہاں صورتحال ہے ابھی پولیٹیکل سپیس نہیں ہے. دیکھو یہاں 5 اگست سے کوئی جو مسئلہ کشمیر کے حوالے سے جو بھی بات ہو رہی تھی پلیٹ فارم کے ذریعے حریت کانفرنس کے ذریعے یا دیگر پلیٹ فارموں کے ذریعے وہ تو پوری طرح سے شرک کی گئی ہے. کوئی سپیس نہیں ہے. کشمیری جو عوام ہے کشمیر کی جو غالب لیڈرشپ ہے جو یہاں غالب اکثریت ہے جو مطالبہ کر رہے ہیں 70 سال سے رائٹ ٹو سیلف ڈٹرمنیشن کی بات تو مجھے لگتا ہے کہ پالیسی کی وجہ سے ہماری کمزوری کی وجہ سے یہاں کی لیڈرشپ کی کمی کی وجہ سے میں یہ بولنا چاہتا ہوں کہ اس پہ ایک تاریخی اثر پڑ گیا ہے جو ہم ابھی اس دلدل سے نکل نہیں رہے ہیں. میری گزارش ہے آپ دوستوں سے جو بھی دیگر ملکوں میں بیٹھے ہیں وہ اقوام عالم کا پریشر گورنمنٹ آف انڈیا پہ ڈال سکتے ہیں تاکہ کم سے کم ایک چیز ہو کہ یہاں پولیٹیکل سپیس دی جائے, یہاں رائٹ آف سپیچ دیا جائے ہر کسی کو. کم سے کم ایک ہم ڈیموکریسی میں آنا چاہتے ہیں, جمہوری طریقے سے جب ہم بات کرنا چاہتے ہیں تو اس پہ بھی قدغنیں ہیں. تو یہ ذمہ داری ہے دیگر ہمسایہ ملک کے جو ہمارے ہمسایہ ملک ہے یا دیگر جن ملکوں میں بیٹھے ہمارے کشمیری بھائی ہماری بہنیں ان کی بھی ذمہ داری بنتی ہے کہ وہ اس کے لیے کوشش کرے اسٹرگل کرے تاکہ کشمیری عوام کو جو آج پولیٹیکل سپیس شرک کی گئی ہے پولیٹیکلی وی آر ناٹ سیف. ہم کسی بھی طور سیف نہیں ہے یہاں پہ. ہماری جو بات ہو رہی ہے ہم کسی بھی طریقے سے اپنے آپ کو انسیکیور سمجھ رہے ہیں اس لیے کہ فرسٹ آف آل پولیٹیکل سپیس رائٹ آف سپیچ جو ہے یہ 2 چیزیں یہاں پہ پرامن طریقے سے چلنے چاہیے. اگر یہ چھین گئی ہے تو آپ خود اندازہ کر سکتے ہیں کہ یہاں کی صورتحال کیا ہو سکتی ہے. کوئی یہاں لیڈر کمروں سے باہر نہیں آ رہا ہے آج کل. یہ صورتحال ہے. کوئی جو ہیومن رائٹس ایکٹیوسٹ ہو چاہے پولیٹیکل ایکٹیوسٹ ہو یا مین اسٹریم کی آپ صورتحال دیکھیے پی ڈی پی نے پرسوں ایک پروٹیسٹ کرنے کی کوشش کی ہے جو کہ مین اسٹریم پارٹی ہے ان کو تو دفتر سے باہر آنے نہیں دیا گیا. تو حریت کانفرنس یا رائٹ ٹو سیلف ڈٹرمنیشن مانگنے والوں کی تو بات ہی نہیں ہے. یہاں پہ آپ پر یہ ذمہ داری ہے, ہماری بھی ذمہ داری ہے, آپ پر بھی لیکن ذمہ داری ہے کہ آپ اس مظلوم قوم کی حمایت کریں, ہماری آواز کو دنیا کے تمام کونے کونے تک پہنچائیے. ہمیں اس بربریت اس ظلم سے نجات دلانے کے لیے آپ اپنی مؤثر آواز کو بلند کریں. شکریہ. تھینکس اے لاٹ.
Thank you very much. As you are giving the real and actual situation in occupied Kashmir, I'd like to request Barrister Tramboo Sahab. Barrister Sahab, so I once again say you are more experienced. You have been doing work for Kashmir for decades, and you know ins and outs of Kashmir. So, what is the way forward? Because some people you might have got the idea that some people Kashmiri people are confused because some people think that we are going to achieve our goal within days, and some people think that we need to do much more. Some people are saying that international community is not doing anything. So what is the way forward, Mr. Tramboo Sahab? And what we people should do, what Kashmiri should do now?
Thank you very much, Beg Saab. First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everybody, especially Shabbir Sahab and Adil Sahab who are in the occupied territory. It is refreshing to see them, and it is refreshing really to hear them. And I really give a lot of credit to the organizers to make it possible that we have possibly after 5th August, first time a direct voice via this video conferencing, being able to speak to someone right inside the occupied territory. We are very grateful to the organizers. Beg Saab, thank you for your very kind remarks, together with all others, including, as I have always said, my very favorite Shahista as well. Those are very encouraging remarks, but what we have to do and what we have to see is what is the what we call as a reality check. First of all, Wani Sahab raised a number of questions. He has posed us about 6 odd questions. And I think in this intervention, I will be able to cover all of them. But very briefly, I want to go to some of the remarks before I give my analysis of the entire situation or the topic. Shabbir Sahab obviously made it absolutely in a very eloquent way. He put it that we are at the receiving end. That is absolutely correct. They are the people who are on the ground, whether they do anything or whether they do not do anything. The very mere fact that they have engaged what Asif Dar Sahab said, 1 million Indian military and paramilitary forces. That itself is something very huge. And therefore, they are doing something when you have such a huge, probably the most militarized state, country, nation in the world. So that credit goes to them. And then where the government of India is engaged in such a huge way. You see, again, Asif Dar Sahab and I think Danish Sahab said, let's not fool ourselves. India is a huge, huge market, according to him, and it has a voice in the world. It, of course, it's a member of G20 as well. That we cannot forget that. But yet, our population in the occupied territory is engaging, to use the words, the might of India in such a way that they are able to bring them to their knees in a way to change the constitutional promised laws in the state, to go to issue on almost daily basis various notifications, taking over Nuzul lands, putting leadership behind the bars, putting them under house arrest. That itself speaks volumes of our struggle. So therefore, any suggestion, and Shabbir Sahab is absolutely right, you are at the receiving end, but any suggestion to say we have to do more inside, in my view, is far-fetched. Our brothers, sisters, children, boys and girls, all of them are doing more than enough, and they are keeping India engaged, and they are keeping the might of the world, in that sense, what they call the biggest democracy of the world, engaged in Kashmir with total zip up and restricted to their homes. So that point made by Shabbir Sahab is an eloquent point that speaks volumes, and I think he is absolutely right. Then we move to Shahista. Shahista is absolutely right. The bubble has bursted. 5th August. I, for one, do not understand why we are giving so much prominence to 5th August. I think, as somebody rightly said, and I think it was Danish who rightly said, whether it is Congress or whether it is BJP, One do the work during the night, other do work during the day. 5th August, through the Act of Parliament or the Indian Parliament, or directly or indirectly, Article 370, or for that matter 35A, had been compromised long back. Jammu, if you would look at Jammu and Ladakh, pre-5th August 19, it's practically taken over. The demographic change has already taken place in those two parts of Kashmir. So to be quite honest, it was merely RSS agenda or propaganda to satisfy their people or their hardcore fundamentalists within India, to make them to rejoice that this is what the change we have done. But again, a reality check is that those things were already in operation in Kashmir. And yes, there was a lot of commotion throughout the world. We have seen lots of demos, huge demos, but that has gone. Shahista is absolutely right. I've been saying those days as well. Shahista is witness to it. This is a temporary phase. The people had come out, and I personally appreciated that very much. But this is a temporary phase, and this is more related to people living in diaspora, Kashmiris living in diaspora, not having been able to reach to their loved ones in Kashmir. And once that is eased up, we will see lesser and lesser and lesser pressure within our constituencies in diaspora. And that's what has precisely happened. Once mobile started or social media started a little bit easing up, we have seen a somewhat reduction in our engagement in those numbers. But that still does not mean that we have forgotten anything, or that we are not still on the course. Yes, it was a temporary phase, and we have to take whatever it comes with the time. And if that particular event, 5th August, provided us an opportunity to raise the issue in a much more forceful way, it was good to happen. And perhaps the lockdown, to a large extent, has helped us in the world capitals. So those things, these things those happen, it may be temporary, but we got to take whatever advantage of the situation we can take in those given circumstances. Strategy not in place, that is what Shahista said, with very much respect. I do not agree that there is no strategy in place. Why we don't have a strategy in place? You see, no moment in the world, freedom struggle moment in the world, have absolutely any one coherent strategy or one coherent way of fighting the occupier. It is good to have one platform, or a coalition platform, I would say, rather than one platform, to have a coalition platform. But if you have different people working towards the same direction, that probably is not that detrimental as we see it. We try, yes, there should be a coalition, there should be an understanding of commonality, what we can pursue in the world politics, in the power corridors, in the diplomatic world. Yes, that is very helpful. But the strategy is what? The strategy is, and which everyone is speaking, whether he belongs to one political group or another political group of one human rights group or another human rights group. There is one strategy and one narrative, which I will come a little bit later again, that is the right to self-determination. And I think we all who are even present here talk about self-determination, talk about the United Nations resolution. That is a common strategy. And that, I think, is something which is very common with all of us. Now, I want to go to Dr. Dar, Asif Saab. Asif Saab, we are not living in fool's paradise. We definitely are not living in fool's paradise. I can tell you with certainty that we know our strengths and we know our weaknesses, to be quite honest. We know India's strengths and we know India's weaknesses. India may be a market power. India may be having the level of biggest democracy in the world, but India has its shortfalls as well. It's not a country which is without any major problems, apart from Kashmir, I'm saying. So therefore, we maybe what Shahista also reflected, it not so directly, a bit fragmented. But our strength is that all of us, including yourself, Dr. Dasab, that we are working in the diaspora with the relevant power corridors, influential people, to raise our voices. That is our strength. And a lot of discussion during the post 5th August, a couple of meetings we held of the Kashmiris, a lot of emphasis was laid down on social media. Shahista was there, I think she remembers it. Of course, that is something crucial. So we are very active, even if Kashmir occupied territory has problems. They don't have social media access, they don't have 4G, they don't have 5G, they don't have the rapid systems of apps. But we outside in Kashmir are using the social media to the best of our ability to keep the cause alive, to keep the voice going. Of course, Eman gave us Venezuela examples and so on and so forth. It was very nice to hear her, and I understand that she is now in Lahore. Excellent presentation, excellent diversion of the thought, how we can much more make our work effective. I think these are my few of the remarks, what the various participants, these are very respected and knowledgeable panelists express their views. Now let me make a few other major comments. What are the problems we are facing? Let's see. We are being told many times, what is our narrative? I did say I will come back to it a bit later. And after 5th August situation, repeatedly we were told, we don't have a narrative. We don't know what we want. Do we want the restoration of Article 370 or 35A? Do we want anything else? To be quite honest and being very straightforward, it's the Indian intelligence agencies that muddle our narrative. And we should never fall victim of muddled up situations. Why? Because that goes to their advantage. As I said, in our 70 years, we have seen many ups and downs of our movement. It has taken a different dimension. since 1989. That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely right. But it has seen many ups and downs. Therefore, these phases of 5th August-like phases will come and go. 5th August is significant, but that is not our motive. Please do remember this. Constitutional guarantees is not the issue for us. Please do remember that. Those were constitutional guarantees given by Government of India to the leadership at that time. That had an advantage. Absolutely correct. The only major advantage of it was that there wouldn't be any settlements in Kashmir, Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. Absolutely right. But that's not the narrative. Narrative remains and always must be. Our goal and our aim is right to self-determination. Linking it with the United Nations resolutions, because your legal base generates from the United Nations resolutions. Some of you may not agree with that, but that is the fact. You don't have United Nations resolutions, you don't have the case. You go before the world, or you go before the Security Council, which Pakistan has done twice in the recent times, only because you have the UN resolutions. So our narrative is and must remain one narrative, wherever you are, inside, outside, Pakistan, Azad Kashmir, or in diaspora, is the right to self-determination. You can't get away from that. That is what it is. Rest are all, as I said, as the things come and go, as the situation demands, we can raise the issues but surrounding to that particular situation. But the main narrative remains, and main narrative is right to self-determination. We have problems, severe problems. Shabbir Sahab identified it. Adil Sahab identified it. Shahista identified the UN's two reports. Serious, not serious, gross human rights violations taking place in the occupied territory. That's an issue. In my view, to be quite honest, there is genocide in Kashmir. There is also possibly coming to the terms with crimes against humanity in occupied territory. What to do about it, how to go about it. That's the way forward. These are serious issues. We have, as Shahista identified, two major reports of the UN. And it talks of everything. It talks of pellet guns, it talks of disappearances, it talks of violence against women and our children and our girls. Yes, this is a serious problem. And we must raise these serious issues on international fora. That is what is very crucial and important. And I'm pleased that at least intergovernmental organizations, UN is an international intergovernmental organization. The Office of the High Commissioner has recognized these, though remotely prepared reports, but those are very crucial reports. And you cannot simply ignore, and I emphasize on this thing, Organization of Islamic Cooperation reports. Even just a couple of days back, Niger, we had the Foreign Ministers Conference. Don't undermine, please and please, I tell to every Kashmiri, every our sympathizer, every our well-wisher, every our supporter, any activity, any document produced by any intergovernmental organization, do not consider it simply a lip service. A lot of work is gone behind it, and it is For that reason that those reports or resolutions or memorandums are coming forth. So therefore, that work is very important. And if OIC passes resolutions time and again, it has its relevance. If its human rights permanent mission for human rights publishes reports, it has its significance. If, for example, tomorrow UN decides, HRC, Human Rights Council decides to have a debate on Kashmir, these reports will matter. But if you have nothing, then they will say on what basis we should have discussion, debate, or any kind of sanction that we would want to apply. So this kind of work by the intergovernmental organizations is very crucial. And of course, European Union's work is very, very, very crucial. And even in these difficult days, European Union has been still at it. European Union intervened. There were a couple of journalists who were arrested recently following the 5th August thing. They intervened. Communications were sent out. There was some sort of relief. I know it for practical reasons because I have the letters. So this kind of work on human rights front is very, very crucial, and we should highlight it. Of course, Adil Sahab very eloquently put it to you. There is no political space in Kashmir now. And that is very disturbing. Our very senior leadership is in Tihar jail. You must not forget that. Whether it is Yasin Sahab, whether it is Shabbir Sahab, whether it is Dar Sahab, who's known as Bitter Karate as well, or Naeem Khan Sahab, or even the chairman of the bar, president of the Bar Council. All these people are in Tihar jail. We must not forget them. We have to raise these issues wherever we can. And then whatever is outside prisons, they are house arrested. May it be Gilani Sahab, may it be Umar Farooq Sahab, Mirwais Sahab, may it be other leaders, Bat Sahab, and so on and so forth. Shabbir Sahab, we have been very lucky to have him here today, or Adil Sahab, we have been very lucky to have him today here, to be quite honest. And then overall, thousands and thousands of activists, Kashmiris, who are in prisons across India. So political space is very crucial. To all my panelists and those who are listening to us, please and please raise this issue that we must have political space in Kashmir. APHC must be there to function, and all our activists who are held in prisons across India must be released together with our political leadership. This is something which is very, very crucial. Somebody raised the economic issues. Of course, economy is the backbone of a country. And we have seen the devastation since 1989. 5th August onwards, maybe much more, because there is a lockdown. That's a different situation altogether. But billions and billions of dollars have been lost in Kashmir economy. And we need to raise this thing within the right forums in the intergovernmental organizations. This is something which is very crucial. One important factor that we have forgotten during all this, because our issues are so heavy, self-determination, human rights, economic, political issues. Direct impact on our social living. Our social fabric has completely collapsed because of the atrocities, because of the lockdowns, because of the militarizations, because our kits and kins, our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our wives, our children, they are not able to have that normal social life. There is no social life. Here or there, a marriage, which is a part of life, or here or there, funerals. Funerals are much more than the marriages in occupied territory. To be quite honest, those have become abysmal. Therefore, we should bear in mind our social fabric that has torn is revived. I remember in one of the conferences, Shahista was with me there. She raised the issue of telling stories. And I think she will be better eloquently to say, what does that mean? You need to tell the story of atrocities. You need to tell the stories of what has gone through you in your social environment. That is what you should post on social media. Not necessarily hardcore politics, but you have not been able to meet your husband. You have been looking for your husband for the last 20 years. You are a half widow. This is telling stories of a particular person. Or you have not been able to visit Kashmir for the last 30 years. You have not been able to see your loved ones. These things matter in international environment, in international awareness. And that's what gets you support. It's not hardcore politics necessarily. It's telling these stories, whether of social happenings or whether in terms of economic disasters, whether in terms of shrinking the political space. Keep on telling these stories wherever you can, physically, orally, meeting-wise, and social media. This is what I think is very important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm not finished yet. Sorry, I just need few more points to come across. What is the way forward? I haven't said what is the way forward. You have lots of challenges. You have a fascist government installed in Kashmir, in Jammu, Kashmir, and Ladakh. Throughout India is a fascist government. A couple of days ago, I heard one of the TV debates here on BBC. One of the commentators described Modi as modern Hitler. You are dealing with that kind of a person in India, in occupied territory, and in Kashmir. So you have lots of challenges. Lots of projects are being floated at the moment in Kashmir. I think Shabbir, Dr. Dar Saab said there are projects for sports, for youth, young people. And there is a very strong possibility that government of India, with the help of some of the film industry, the Bollywood people, are trying to establish a film city in Pahalgam. That's what is my understanding. And there are other business opportunities which are being provided. Industrialists are still they are trying to bring in. These are the challenges. So what is the way forward? Very, very quickly. What is happening inside Kashmir? As I earlier said, they are doing enough. They don't need to do anything. It's our responsibility outside. What do we need to do? very, very briefly and quickly, aggressive diplomacy of all sorts. And it will take me another 1 hour to describe this, but just to put it, continue with the demonstrations. Demonstrations should never come out of focus. They must continue. Social media, continue with a very heavy level social media. And above all, you have a new administration coming in United States. Kamala Harris, who is the vice president. Now, very briefly, she made a statement in the Senate, not during this election campaign, but sometime back when a senator's group was attempting to go to Kashmir, but they were denied the visas by the fascist government. She said that, and it's on record. Let Kashmiris know they do not stand alone. We have to cash on these words with the new administration. Biden, the president-elect, made various statements on Kashmir. Electioneering, I accept, a lot of things may come, but we need to depend on these statements which they have made and impress upon the new administration how to take Kashmir forward. And finally, I sincerely believe there is genocide in Kashmir. I have prepared a paper on this, which has been presented to the United Nations, but the legality of it is, it has to go to the International Court of Justice. And we need a country to take it there. And we have to work on this. Thank you very much to all of you to listening me so patiently. Please forgive me if I took longer than expected, but I wanted to make these points across. I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Beg Saab. Beg Saab, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Tramboo Saab?
Now we can hear you.
Once again, we have been blessed by your sublime thoughts, and we always love to hear you. We Kashmiri people, as you said, have chosen the path of path on which we are moving forward. There are negative and positive things in everything in every moment in the world, but I am very much optimistic on the basis of 2 points, on the basis of 2 things. Number one, Kashmiri people are not tired yet. Number second, we hate India, and this hatred is in our blood and hearts. So that's why I believe that a day will come when we will reach to our goal, inshallah. And when we have people, so energetic people like Shabbir Ahmad Dar, Adil Dar, and Tramboo Saab, Shahista is there, and other people are there. So inshallah, we will reach to our goal. Mr. Zeeshan, if you are hearing me, please. Mr. Zeeshan? Or Misbah Hussain Rizvi? Misbah Saab? They have some audio issues, I think.
Okay.
Bashir Ahmad Dar Saab, if you have one-liner. Shabbir Ahmad Dar. One-liner. Okay, Miss Shahista, before Dar Saab. One-liner.
When it comes to Kashmir, it's really hard to say anything in one line. But yes, what Tramboo Saab said, I like to repeat that. We need to show that urgency in ourselves as well. We need to go to the power corridors as well. We need to let people know our stories. Storytelling we may feel like it is not a new thing, but storytelling is really important, where we can tell that people who are living in occupation and people who are in exile, we need to let people know that even the people who are living in exile go through the trauma of occupation. They go through, if Nabi Beg Yunus is sitting in Islamabad, he has seen the death of his parents and he was not able to attend them. If Tramboo Saab is sitting in London and doing work for Kashmir, but he was unable to attend the funeral, and he's unable to attend the joys and the sadness of his family. Same goes with each and every Kashmiri, whether he is in occupation or in exile. If he has left Kashmir, Kashmir has never left his mind or heart. People need to understand that occupation and exile go in hand to hand. We have our stories, we have our own side of stories. We need to tell to the people that this is what a conflict does to the nature of people's life. We need to let those stories come out and let people know that this is a tragedy people of Kashmir are going through. Thank you.
Thank you. Eman Haider, one liner. Miss Eman, if you're there,
I would just, I feel like, yeah, I think Tramboo Saab summed up everything very eloquently and perfectly. So I would just like to say that we just need to fight and stay strong and fight for this cause.
Thank you, Iman. Ashraf Wani Saab, he is also sitting beside me, and I'd like to request him to conclude the views.
No, thank you very much. I am not going to conclude. Basically, I have one basic question because Tramboo Saab is most senior among this panel this time. So basically, when we look at India, it has adopted some sort of very aggressive policy and multidimensional policy. Particularly at a time, we see after 5 August 2019, it is working on multi-fronts against Kashmir. We have seen the land laws, we have seen the permission laws, etc. Now we say that right to self-determination, of course, it is our narrative. Right to self-determination is our narrative. This is the basis. Maybe we can coordinate. Maybe we can. This is all Kashmiris what they want. But what do you think, Tramboo Saab, if the Indian moves go with the same pace? And at one time we are demanding right to self-determination, and other thing we are seeing that demographic changes are happening in Kashmir. If it goes with the same pace, I think within 2 or 3 years there might be a lot of change demographically. What will be the question of right to self-determination at that time, sir? Yes, I want some sort of clarification from you.
Thank you very much, Wani Saab. But to be quite honest, demographic change. The big question is that likely to happen? There are lots of other reasons behind it. Logistically and legally, they might have taken the steps. Practically, how far it is going to go is dependent on lots of surrounding circumstances. And I do not believe that even this fascist government will be able to materialize such a great change demographically in Kashmir. There are lots of reasons for it. And those obviously one thing you can't rule out, and we have seen it over the last few months, is also on the ground a certain scenario of Kashmiri's militancy on the ground. Whether that is going to likely to help government of India to have the demographic change so rapidly as is suggested by you in there, is somewhat which is very difficult to perceive. But overall, as I said, it's not the end of the matter that Article 370 or 35A is now rolling in the way that the change will take place. It is a situation that we have to confront, and it is a situation that we have to raise at the international fora. I think there could have been much more very serious developments on this, but for two reasons, the year 2020 has slowed down. One is very apparent, and that is the pandemic. Pandemic has slowed down everything, and it has slowed down also what you could describe very positive diplomacy. I am privy to a situation that where we had a certain plan in the offing, but we could not implement it because of the pandemic situation. And once the pandemic is obviously overcoming, the vaccine is now being rolled out, I think the situation on demographic, what is your fear on demographic level will not be the same as is feared. And I think we will be able to put a halt to it, or to a certain degree. There are serious, I would say, I would say serious interactions are taking place, that how to put a halt to it. So it may not be, it looks from the outside, it looks pretty enormous, it looks pretty ugly, but it is my view, and view based on lots of surroundings, those are known to me, that it's not going to be as rapid as we think, and we will fight it out. We will not leave any door unopened for not to take such a major demographic change there.
Thank you very much. Mr. Asif Dar, can you hear me, please? Dr. Asif.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, Dr. Asif is from Saudi Arabia, Kashmir. He is Kashmiri as well. Dr. Asif, without asking a question, would you like to throw light on these views, whatever you have been hearing here in this webinar?
Yes, I'd only like to say that we are fighting a state. We are asking for something which doesn't go down well with any of the major countries. Every effort will count. Every webinar, every seminar, everything will count. When the moment will come, each one of us, whoever has put even the slightest of the efforts, would be required to give the result. I mean, what has been started today, what you guys have started today, this will count when the result is expressed over a period of time, over next 1 year or maybe after 10 years. Everything will count. So what is my request to all the brothers and sisters here, that it is the perseverance, it is the persistence to the cause, especially what Mr. Tramboo has been doing over last so many years. It's only the beginning for us. And with his experience and with his guidance, we can pull it out, inshallah, together.
Thank you very much, Tramboo Sahab. We really are grateful to all of you that you gave precious time. Thank you, Asif Dar Sahab. Thank you, Danish Ali. Thank you, Zeeshan Sahab. Thank you, Misbah Hussain Rizvi. Thank you, Shahista. Very thankful to you. Thank you, Shabbir Dar Sahab. Thank you, Omar Adil. Thank you, Eman Haider. Thank you, all of you people. May Allah bless you.
Thank you very much to you, Beg Sahab, for moderating this very important and crucial event. And we are very grateful to the organizers, even to Rais, Mir Sahab and Wani Sahab there. for you people putting it together. I would, though, while going, mention my very close comrade, Professor Nazir Ahmad Shawl Sahab, who has been working with me on the senior level, I mean, day and night, to highlight the cause of Kashmir, particularly within the United Kingdom. And his obviously mention is very crucial because he is very, very important insofar as the international diplomacy is concerned. Obviously, within the UK, I would say Shahista can do much more, and I hope she will do much more. And the Dar Sahib in Saudi Arabia, Danish in Australia, and everywhere else. Eman, I'm very sad to know Eman is not presently in the United Kingdom. I hope she comes back at one given time. Zeeshan is here. He has to also to play much more active role. Adil Saab and Shabbir Saab, I'm very grateful to you for both of you to coming, and really it was very nice to see both of you. Very, very great to see both of you. And please do remember us in your prayers, and we will remember you and all of you, the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir, in our prayers. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Beg Sahab.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you most.
Thank you very much for having us.
And it should be continue. It will remain
Yes.
continue, and
Consistency.
we'll make that coherence which is lacking over there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I will call it off now. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.